Hi, this is Max Antinone, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how we're building a run cycle for Heartlands. As I mentioned in my earlier blog post, we're using a system called CAT, Character Animation Tools, in 3D Studio Max to build our character rigs. And one of the coolest features of CAT is called CAT Motion, which helps you automatically generate walk cycles and run cycles. And here you can see the default walk cycle that it gives you when you first add a cat motion layer. And I'm just going to go into the saved presets and load the basic run cycle preset. So normally there's a lot of tedious work when you're first creating a run cycle. You have to plant the feet and measure the strides and make sure the poses match correctly at the beginning and end of the cycle, and the pose mirrors correctly in the middle, and basically, you have to build up the cycle before you can start editing it. And what Cat Motion does is it just takes care of that overhead and lets you dive straight into editing the pose and creating the performance that you want. It's always important to work from reference when you can when you're doing animating or any sort of art, and YouTube is wonderful for animators. Here you'll notice this girl's run looks really awkward because she's running with her hips really low. She's trying to keep her hips and her chest really still so the backpack doesn't shake around. And here's what it looks like when your backpack shakes around when you're running and jumping and stuff. It's also really important to get up and move around yourself and see how it feels to try to do these actions. I did a lot of running back and forth across my apartment with a backpack when I was developing this animation. Unfortunately, I don't have any video of that to show you. My video recording software was causing problems with 3ds Max, so what I'm going to do in a couple seconds here is just cut to some animation renders that I made, and just talk about what changes I've made at each step and why. You can see here I'm trying out a more hunched over pose, because when you're carrying a backpack it throws your center of gravity backwards, so what you want to do is try and pull it forward a little bit to put your center back over your feet. The pose here is roughly where the recording left off. His hips are lower, and I've done a lot of work to try to make his foot motion nicer. In this shot, I've totally changed his pose to look more like the reference from earlier. He's pitched his hips forward, but he's keeping his back upright. I also toned down a lot of the motion on his head and on his ribs. Here I've toned down his arm motion and made him hold the straps of his backpack like in his concept art, although I've been told we're probably going to change that in the end, have him swing his arms again. So, now that I've given the impression he's carrying this big weight and trying not to shake it around, I'm actually going to kind of violate that idea by going back in and emphasizing the right motion to add more visual interest to the cycle. And finally, with the body motion done, I go in and animate the backpack. The backpack motion is especially important because as a player you're going to be staring at the character's back for most of the game. And here's a 3/4 view of the animation and a view of what it'll look like when you're playing as Eatos in the game. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Be sure to keep up with development updates on Facebook or on our blog at heartlandsgame.com, and see you in Heartlands.